So the Trump administration is just resolved to destroy the American economy. Ruining our lives is what wakes them up in the morning and gives them energy in the day. Donald Trump gets up on stage to just further cement the absolute tarnishing of his legacy and grabs a ridiculous longboard of countries the United States is going to tariff with made up numbers. Made up numbers. He's proud of this. Now you might ask, who provided the list? Howard Lutnick, the guy who said if my mother-in-law was missing her Social Security payments, she wouldn't complain. She wouldn't complain. And those of you who do complain are fraudsters and scammers. Come to find out, Howard Lutnick is a billionaire. Of course his mother-in-law would not lose sleep over missing her Social Security payments. But these are the people who are in charge of determining our future, our economic future. People who will feel nothing in the event of these tariffs, bringing about possibly a recession, and maybe even, if conservatives, really put in that work, a Great Depression. Or maybe even a greater, my depressions are the best. It's possible his depression will be even worse than the last one. Let's see what happens. Let's see what's going on with this list first and foremost.
Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Larry. So, if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So, 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
You could be upset if you came to find out how exactly this list was created. Donald Trump jokes about the fact that this list would be super duper big. It was supposed to be huge, but we shortened it and, downsized the size of the list. We made the board smaller so people could see it and so that it doesn't get blown away by the wind. A lie. I'll tell you why. Do you know how Donald Trump, or rather Howard Lutnick, or whoever the stooge was who calculated all of this, came to this mathematical conclusion of how much they're tariffing us, China, the EU, Vietnam, Taiwan, so on and so forth? I'll tell you. Here's how they calculated it. They calculated it by dividing our trade deficit with that nation by its exports. So for example, we have a 17.9 billion trade deficit with Indonesia. The exports to us are 28 billion. They divided 17.9 by 28 and got 64%. They're claiming that is the amount of money Indonesia is charging us. This is what we call a lie. This is what we call a lie. Furthermore, if you look at the list, I'll show you guys again. South Korea is on the list. South Korea has a 50% tariff rate charged on the US. We know this is not true because we have a free trade agreement with them and their tariffs on us are like 0.79%. South Korea's tariffs on the US are 0.79%. Donald Trump can't help but ball up a ball of spit and just spit it in the eye of anyone who's friendly with the United States. If you look at the list, you'll also find the United Kingdom on there. The United Kingdom is also a friend of the United States. Donald Trump is resolved to just attack as many friends of the US as humanly possible. And Australia is also on the list as well. What you'll find in common with these two countries is the United States has a trade surplus with these countries, meaning we sell more goods to them than we buy from them. Donald Trump has decided to slap a 10% tariff on countries that buy more goods from us than we buy from them. Donald Trump wants them to buy more from us than we buy. That's what he wants all these countries to do, which is impossible because many of these countries are developing nations that need to stabilize their own economies, that need to build up their own industries. And also, their labor is really, really cheap, meaning any goods produced over there that are sold in the US are going to be cheaper than those goods would be if they were produced in the US. Not to mention the multiple goods that go into producing final products that come from other countries. Donald Trump slaps a 10% tariff on countries that we have a trade surplus with. So even if you submit, even if you bow before the beast, Donald Trump still is going to slap a 10% tariff on you just to be a dickhead. And this is supposed to be, making America great again. This is supposed to be making things fair. They're doing the math by dividing the trade deficit by the exports. So dividing how much we sell and how much we buy from these countries, they're coming to the conclusion based on that. That's where they're coming to the conclusion based off of. So nation states that we're selling more to, we're making more money off of them. We're making money off of them. We're not in a deficit. We're exporting more goods to them. Even countries that buy more from us than they sell to us, even they are being punished. And they're being punished based off of a calculation that has nothing to do with tariffs. All of these calculations are done based off of trade deficits, some of which aren't even real. There is no trade deficit between the US and the United Kingdom or the US and Australia. So what we're seeing is trade fan fiction. Just making shit up. We just wake up, make shit up, throw it in front of the American people, and unfortunately, people are going to believe this. Thankfully, someone managed to find a way to figure out how they calculated this math. And now we're actively watching America's downward economic spiral based on nonsensical voodoo math that Donald Trump and Howard Lutnick and his bum friends came up with. And now this is American economic policy. They're coming to conclusions on tariffs without even calculating tariffs. They're not calculating these nations' tariffs on us. They're calculating trade deficits, which you got to take into account the fact that cheaper labor is a thing, the fact that these nations have to protect their own economies, like this idea that America can strong arm the entire world into buying everything from us, which we don't make everything, by the way. The idea that you can force that is impossible, but they don't care. It's like these, and the scary thing about this isn't the fact that they're racist and sexist and stuff. I've given up on these people. What scares me is they are true believers of their absolutely dysfunctional, unrealistic policies. That is what terrifies me. The fact that these people actually believe the dumb shit that they say in public. And we know this to be true because the JD Vance, the whiskey leaks with Hegseth and Vance and friends, you can find in the text JD Vance talking about how I don't want to bail out Israel. I don't want to bail out. Oh no, they love Israel. I don't want to bail out Europe again. It's so unfair that we have to bail out Europe by attacking the Houthis. Why can't the Europeans deal with it? Why can't Israel deal with it, actually? Now that we think about it, why can't they deal with it? They don't even care about global trade. They view it as a tit-for-tat zero-sum game instead of a global cooperational operation toward global prosperity for everybody. Instead, they view it as this us versus them dominance, kind of like imperialistic nonsense. Imperialism has its limits, my G. It just does. The era of bullying the entire world into doing what you want is long gone. The United States cannot be a bully. It won't work. Not only is it morally wrong, it strategically does not work. And the problem with MAGA is they don't listen to moral arguments or strategic arguments, meaning we all have to go down to hell with them before they're willing to admit maybe there was a mistake. Maybe they fucked up. It's unfortunate that that's exactly where we are, and that's what we have to deal with. It's not fair, but unfortunately, that is where we are, and that is what we have to deal with. a political movement of delusional people who do not listen to reason, who do not listen to any form of just begging them to just please see reason. They won't listen. And you get unrealistic, nonsensical tariff plans like this based on absolutely delusional, misdirected math. We're fucked. Basically, is what this video is supposed to be communicating. It's over. We're cooked. It's done. Wrap it up. Game over. GG's. Whatever terminology you want to use, it's over. We're cooked. And none of these people engaging in these tariff wars are going to be affected. By the way, the last time Donald Trump tried to play with Xi Jinping, you remember what happened? Donald Trump tried to start a trade war with Xi Jinping, and it ended in Donald Trump having to bail out American farmers because China just said, you know what, we're going to put a tariff on all those agricultural goods that just shipped to us. And we know those people who work in those economies, in those sectors are your voters. We know these blue collar farmers who, produce all these agricultural goods, they vote for you. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to destroy their lives by putting tariffs on all of this stuff. And Trump ended up having to bail them out. Instead of allowing these people to make money off of exporting these goods abroad, Trump destroyed it all, ruined it all, trying to start some kind of trade war with China, instead of just trying to invest in new industries and new sectors that America can actually dominate. Like EVs, or I don't know, chips. The CHIPS Act. These processors, like Donald Trump didn't do any of that. He just decided to engage in trade wars he couldn't win. And then he had to bail out farmers by billions and billions of dollars. That's a choice he chose to make. This man tried to start a trade war with Xi Jinping. It blew up in his face, and in the end, he had to bail out farmers for billions and billions of dollars. This man does not know what he's doing, and it's going to cost the American taxpayer trillions to fix all of this when it's all said and done. All of the damage. It costed billions to fix the damage he did the first time with the farmers, that nonsensical trade war. It will cost trillions to fix everything Donald Trump does when this is all said and done. He has not learned from anything. Not one bit. I can't wait to see what he destroys next, frankly. We're finished, dude. We really are done. It's not over, but it is over. It's most certainly over.